What's up YouTube? My name is David J. Kelly, and in this video we're going to break down how to have the best year of your life in 2026. The no bullshit, the unfiltered, the real way to actually succeed as a man and make this year the best year of your life. Before we get into it, make sure you're subscribed. I'm posting videos like this constantly to help you build your entire life as a man. Everything from your body to your mind to your spirit and life direction to polarity with women to attraction. All of it, how to get what you want in life. So if you're coming into this year in 2026, I know you probably have these goals and these ambitions, these things you want to accomplish, much like me, right? There's things I want to accomplish in this year. There's things that I learned from 2025 that I try to apply to 2026. And when I'm shooting this video currently is actually December 29th. This year, I do something called an annual review where I look at this past year across my entire life and different aspects of it. And I see what went right, what went wrong, what did I learn, what can I apply moving forward. And the reality is that most guys that are coming into 2026, they're going to want to make these big leaps and bounds and crazy changes and all this different stuff. And something that I pretty routinely talk about in my videos, and I want to make sure I talk about more, is that most of us men, we are trying to accomplish these like 5-year or 10-year or 3-year goals in like 6 months or a year. And so what you really need to do to have the best 2026 possible is you actually need to start doing the things they're going to make 2030 the best year of your life. Now, that's going to sound counterintuitive because you're probably listening to this thinking, well, Dave, I want to have the best 2026. Yes. However, the problem is that most things that you want in your life with money, with, increasing your physique, increasing your mind, your knowledge, your skill, increasing your ability to attract women, increasing your, possibilities in life. These things don't have to occur in 4 years, but they're going to take you longer than you think, right? So when I set out to build my physique, for example, when I was younger, I thought that I could just do it and, within a few years, if I just ran certain cycles and I trained hard and I did all this stuff, that I could just blow my physique up and it would become what I want to. Now, that to some extent worked until it didn't. What I mean by that is I ended up crashing out my nervous system eventually because I was overtraining, pushing myself, dieting too long for preps, etc., and bodybuilding, and I'd burn out, and I would go through these seasons of really extreme progress, and then I'd burn out, and then I would regress for 6 months, and then I would stabilize, and I'd do it all over again. And so the thing is that most of us exist like this in reality, and I want to give you an example of this, of how wealth is built and how we can use this to understand what we want to accomplish in our life, right? So the best method in terms of investing in the stock market, in ETFs, in things that will actually build you long-term wealth, whether it's a Roth IRA, a 401k, other forms of investments or whatever. I'm not talking day trading. I'm talking wealth accumulation through consistently investing money and saving money, okay? What happens with this? Well, the way that I do this and the way that most people would recommend you do this is you do something called dollar cost averaging. You're always buying the stocks or the ETFs at a certain time of the week, of the month, whatever. And what happens is over time, you're buying the same amount of said ETF or stock or whatever, but you're doing it at different price points. So let's say, it's up at a peak in the market, you buy it at a high point, but then in the market crashes, you buy it at a low point, but you're consistently buying. So you're consistently buying over 10, 20, 30, 40 years. That money is then consolidating, it's investing, it's being indexed, and over time you're going to make money, you're going to have wealth accumulation. You can see how even adding $10 a day, $5 a day, $20 a day into investing over 20 or 30 years is massive. But here's the thing. When you look at that $20 investment that you might make today, you don't see that result because it's years down the line. And this is where it's really important to understand that the single greatest thing that is going to hold you back from getting to where you want to be this year and every year here forward is your inability to sit with delayed gratification. Everything that you want, from building your physique to developing a great mindset to getting the response you want on social media or the response you want for job opportunities, whatever it is, literally everything you want requires you to be able to go through doing the boring shit that you don't want to do, right? The way that I built a world-class physique that has placed me top 5 at the amateur level in classic physique, 2 spots from turning pro, is because I have trained for 15 years. I've eaten the right meals, the right foods consistently for 6, 7, 8 years, right? I've trained hard. I've done the other stuff with it too, yes. But the most important thing is I never have stopped doing those things. That is why there's a compounding result for it. That is why I'm willing to keep posting YouTube videos on this new channel that I have, that I started in September this year, of 2025, excuse me, is because I'm willing to invest in a long arc. I understand if I do this for 5-10 years, that these videos will eventually get to where I want to be. It reminds me of an Alex Hormozi quote, not word for word, but what he used to say is that when he started on YouTube, he was always thinking, I'm making these videos for people that will find me in the future once I become successful, right? And that's the way you have to look at things. Is too many of us, we want the instant gratification. We want to post the YouTube video and we want the views right now, right? We want them right now. We want the money right now. We want the return on investment right now. I want to know if I eat that meal that I just ate right now before I filmed, I want to see that showing my physique tomorrow, right? By the end of the night. I don't want to wait till the end of this year. I don't want to diet for 6 months. I don't want to invest for that long. I don't want to build my skills for that long. I don't want to read 10 pages a day to read a book in a month, right? I don't want to do that stuff. I want to just get it done now. I want to do it now. And so the reason we're like this is because our culture influences us that way. Everything is instant on demand, right? If I want food right now, I order it, Uber Eats gets it here in, 30 minutes. If I want, women, I open up Hinge, I swipe on that shit until I get a match and I start talking to a woman, right? If I want instant dopamine, I can go on Instagram, post something, and my, tens of thousands of followers can like it, whatever. Like, this is the world we live in. But you have to understand that the way you actually make real meaningful change in your life is the same way that you've always done it. That we've always done it as humans. It's compounding effort, the compound effect, right? One of the best books I've ever read in my life, The Compound Effect, right? And there's another book very similar called The Slight Edge. Highly recommend you read both of those. They talk about this exact thing. It's that the man you want to become is found in basically, another great book is Atomic Habits that talks about this, is the compounding of these habits over time. You don't become the man you want to be by making this monumental move in your life, these mountain moving things. You become the man that you want to be by embracing the mundane nature of the day to day. And that's not very exciting. In a world that is always, driven by dopamine, by getting rushed, you can get a rush through betting, you can get a rush through swiping on dating apps, you can get a rush through scrolling on YouTube Shorts or Instagram's Reels or TikTok or whatever. But guys, the real thing that you have to understand is that the way you build yourself into being a high value man, the way that you build yourself into being a magnetic man that attracts everything he wants into his life, where he doesn't have to go chase everything, is by leaning into compounding effort. And compounding effort has to start somewhere. Maybe you've already done that. Maybe you're already training in the gym hard. Maybe you're already eating well. Maybe you're already investing. Maybe you're already building your skills. Maybe you're already reading. That's great. The thing is, 2026 can be a year where you take it to the next level, that you tighten things up a little bit more, that you get a little bit better. This year doesn't have to be a mountain moving year for you. What it needs to be is you want to build on, hopefully, the things that you already did in 2025. Maybe you want to have a totally different year. Maybe you're tired of the man that you've been. Maybe you're completely sick of how you look, the relationship prospects, the female prospects. You're not getting the job opportunities you want. Maybe you're tired of the money you make. Great, that's even better. Now this gives you a chance to build from the ground floor. But here's the thing you have to understand. No matter whether you are the kind of man that sits here watching this, that wants to have a completely different year and change their life entirely in 2026, or you're like, I'm happy with my life, I just want to do a little bit better. That's the camp I fall into. You have to understand they're done the same way, right? The difference is the man that's going to start fresh is going to be starting from a fresher slate, which means you probably need to organize your habits out more. But even if you're the man that is that in that capacity, or you're the man that is just trying to build on things, everything comes back to habits. Literally everything you want in your life, from money to Instagram followers to women to everything, comes back to you. You have to be the man, right? When you become the man that magnetizes that shit to you, you will see that it's not just because you're that man and you did it from, the last 6 months. No, it's the cumulative effect over, years, and sometimes, depending on your age, decades. If you're a young guy, you don't have that. You don't have decades behind you yet. Good, no problem. Start building it. right? I wish I had somebody tell me that when I was in my early 20s. And maybe in your 40s, maybe in your 30s, and you do have decades behind you. Maybe they were the way you wanted them to be. Maybe they weren't. It doesn't fucking matter, right? The only thing that matters is you getting very real with yourself about who you are today and how much distance there is to go between where you are and where you want to be. And if the distance is that much, maybe you can close the gap in 2026. That's amazing. But if the gap is like this, in 2026, maybe you go from here to here. And that's totally fine. You have time on your side, right? You want to make urgency in the short term, right? There's a Gary Vaynerchuk quote that I love, where he talks about this. He says, micro speed, macro patience, meaning in the short term, yes, we want to be moving with speed and urgency, but in the long term, we want to have patience. That's how you get to where you want to be in the long term, is you have patience because you understand that the things that you want in life, the goals you have, they're not maybe a year, they're not 6 months, they're not an 8-month transformation or 8-week transformation, excuse me. They're probably years of transformation. And the fact of the matter is, until you start, like if you got to go this far, but you never start because you see all this distance, well, guess what? Then you're never going to start. You're never going to take the incremental needs that you need to do that. And every single day, you can start stacking the habits so it'll just keep moving you closer. And how far you get is often determined by your consistency and how well you can stick to your routines and your habits. Now, this isn't exciting advice, right? This isn't the shit that you want to hear. This is the stuff that is real, though. Any man that's built himself, any man that has built anything for himself has done this. My band grew exponentially in 2025, right? My band grew our listener base by like 5x. That's a lot in 1 year. We grew our Instagram following 15 times over. We went from 1,000 to 15,000 followers. Now, you're probably going to sit there and say, oh, that's incredible. How did you do that? Well, it wasn't one post. It wasn't one song. We released a lot of different songs. We posted probably, 200 times, 100 times, I don't know, right? But we allowed that to compound, and that's what grew. Same thing with this. I'm not making one YouTube video and hope it breaks out and say, well, if it didn't, I'm done. Nope. I'm willing to post 1,000 YouTube videos. Are you willing to do that? Right? And this is where you got to be honest with yourself. You have to look at yourself and say, okay, am I willing to keep taking shots? Because the fact of the matter is, one of them probably will eventually break you out in the way going against what I'm talking about, but you're not going to know when that's going to happen, and you're not going to know how it's going to happen. So what you have to do is you have to keep showing up and being consistent. That's the most important thing. Not perfect, consistent. Consistency is not perfection. Some days consistency looks like 80%. Some days it's 100%. Some days it's 20%. The fact is, you don't stop. Up, down, that's what you got to do, right? That is how the compound effect works. If I miss 1 week of investing, not a problem. If I miss 2 weeks, not a problem. If I miss a month, you're starting to become a problem. If I miss a year, that's a lot to be missed out on, right? So the point is that if you go to the gym 5 times a week, most of the year, 80% of the time, great. If you miss a week and you take a rest week, doesn't matter. If you go on that rest week and then you don't go back to the gym, that's the problem. Do you see what I'm saying? The goal is consistency, and it's building routines and habits that actually serve you. Now, I made something extremely straightforward for you to capitalize on this. If you want to have the best 2026 of your life, if you want to have the best year of your life, I should say, if you go down in the description, you can grab my 30-day magnetic reset. What this is going to do is it's going to help you to build those habits I was talking about. Mentally, physically, life direction. It's going to get you to do everything to build consistency, to build your life and move it forward, because guys, it takes about a month to really build consistency. So go download that now and make sure you're subscribed. Share this video with a friend that you also want to see have a great 2026. I will see you guys in the next video.